So, welcome to the Adventures in Learning podcast. Sometimes life is full of fabulous serendipity. And on a cold and rainy Saturday, I happened to be in the Barnes and Noble in New York and I overheard a conversation and I couldn't help but insert myself into it. And I'm so glad I did because I found not one, but two people who love children's books and early childhood as much as I do, and who have the most amazing company, Elemento Play. And so I am going to welcome Rachel and Annie onto the show, and we're going to spend the next half hour having just the best conversation about books and early childhood and play. So, Rachel and Annie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm so glad you're here. So let's start by introducing you to the audience. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what brought you together, and how Elemento Play came to be?
Sure. So I'm Annie and it's my partner Rachel. We met in kindergarten, not as kindergartners, but as teachers. We had both have extensive experience as teachers, preschool and kindergarten mostly. And when we left the classroom, we decided that we really wanted to focus on what we love the most, which is children's books, and what we have the most experience in, which is literacy and early learning and play. And so in 2018, we built our little company called Elemento Play, the consecutive letters in the alphabet. And we started with in-person book clubs with children and families, helping children to have a more extended experience with a book by bringing it to life through play.
Excellent. Rachel, tell us a little about you too.
Yeah, so like Andy said, we've been teaching forever in the classroom. And even though we left, we loved the idea of connecting with children and around picture books. And we also kind of developed this idea of learning through play and having this, well, we didn't develop the idea of learning through play, but we strongly, strongly believe that picture books hold everything that you need and can kind of unlock all types of math and science and literacy learning, and also kind of just create these wonderful humans. You know, when you find a great picture book, you read it and there's always a message, ideally not kind of over the head, not one of those, teaching books to the moral, but you see kids kind of connect with characters and connect with themes. And by allowing them to explore those through open-ended play invitations, we're really able to see the value of that. While we were running our in-person classes, and now we figured out how to kind of translate that into our book club. So after many years of teaching our book club, we called it Books Before Screens, which was the name of our class for children in person in New York City. We've now really focused on developing those types of experiences for children to have at home in a really simple and easy way. Parents, we know you're busy. We want to make it really accessible so that your kid gets super excited to get this package of this beautiful picture book that we curate and all of these different activities tucked inside, which are really just those ideas and those prompts for the type of play that will kind of just take over and let itself kind of grow organically in your home using just the stuff you already have on hand. And so, yeah, we're just really excited to be able to now reach families. We started the book club only in 2023. And so that's why you found me in Barnes and Noble. Not only are we always looking to find that next great kind of undiscovered potential in a great picture book, but also to hopefully, share with families about how they can do this at home and kind of make these amazing moments through just a really simple act.
So let's talk a little bit about learning through play, and we'll use that to sort of get our way into what you all do, because I think it's important for the audience to sort of know what we mean. Because we were talking before we got on the call and realized that between us, we probably have 50 years of early childhood experience in the Zoom room. So what does it mean to learn through play? Why is it important?
Sure, I can start. Children are naturally experts at play. Children are driven to play. It's how they learn to discover their world. It's how they learn to solve problems. It's how they learn to communicate with each other. It's how they learn to finesse their language skills. It's how they grow their large motor and their fine motor skills. The most important thing about play, let me just stop for 1 second. Play is limitless, especially open-ended play. children are motivated to learn when they learn through play because it's something that they actually care about, that's meaningful, that's important to them. If you contrast learning through play with learning because sort of a top-down model where someone tells you, you need to learn this or memorize this, a child is doing it in order to please a parent or an adult in their life, which is something that children do all the time. But when they learn through play, they're deeply, deeply invested to go all the way to the end of a problem, to solve it, to compromise. So we believe that when children learn through play, it's how they learn best because it belongs to them, because they care about it, because they can be creative, and because ultimately they become stronger thinkers and innovators, more curious individuals, and even more empathetic, kind human beings. And we feel that that is something that we really need in our world is children who think outside the box and know how to solve problems. And we think play and picture books, the marriage of the two is the perfect solution for helping to raise kind, smart, brilliant, imaginative children.
And I'd even add the side effect to that is when you've got adults working hand in hand, not directing the play, but stopping what they're doing and sitting down and being part of the play, you're reactivating that for the grown up as well. Because I think as a society, we've forgotten how to play, and those same things apply. If we want adults who are creative, collaborative problem solvers, then it starts by sitting down and playing and reigniting that spark of wonder and curiosity and connection, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we know it can be overwhelming. We know it can kind of be intimidating because we've come so far from that. So we want to kind of create the invitation for the parents to join as well, and also the support so that, we know parents aren't teachers. We know, there's a lot of jargon out there and a lot of pressure to do the right thing. And ultimately, we want to be seen as a support for the whole family around being able to kind of let go and know that what you're doing is enough and enjoy the process while you're there.
So you guys have created a setting where families and kids can work together on this without it being overwhelming. Can you sort of walk us through what that might look like? Like if I were to receive a subscription from you all, what would I be getting and what might I do this month with my kid?
Sure. Well, this month's book club is actually very special. It's called A Horse Named Steve. So again, the most important part I would say of the process is finding that book. Look, Annie and I both, we agreed if we don't both fall in love with the book immediately, it's gone. And of course that can be very subjective, but for us, we kind of at this point have a little bit of a criteria around it because we want it to be engaging. We don't want it to be super well known, and we want it to kind of serve as that platform for all of the play that we are going to kind of gently tease out of it that's possible. So we pick, these books, we connect with the publishers around them, and then we really put our heads together and design 3 or more kind of play experiences that will connect with that. So I don't know. So for example, this month, so you get a book every month. You can look forward to kind of this new read and play experience. So you'll get in the package. We always address it to the child. And we have a little fun puppet friend named Pom Pom who puts in actual little pom-poms so that the kids can look forward to that gift and again, get really excited about their book club. And then, yeah, they're able to open their book. We don't want to prescribe exactly how it goes at home because we know this could, a lot of things could be
Right.
happening. But the whole idea is that children see this book as a play toy, basically, essentially, that they see it on the shelf, not as just a book that they, read for bedtime or that's read to them at bedtime, but that is kind of, again, this key to unlocking this whole world of play. And so that they're associating like, oh, this is my Elemental playbook. We want it to come out whenever. So, we hope that they read the book and get excited, whether they're looking at on their own and looking at the pictures or actually having it read to them. And then exploring these activities in the back of the book. And Annie, yeah, maybe you can grab out the horse named Steve one while I'm chatting. Because I think it's really cool to be able to
Yeah.
see exactly what we're talking about. We know it's, hard to know until you get it in your hands. But we have these activities stuck in the back of the book, and we always write how long they're going to take, kind of in terms of the expectation for the setup, whether or not the grown-up has to be there the whole time. And yeah, we can just kind of walk you
Sure.
through it. Yeah.
Right. So this book is amazing and hilarious. And Rachel and I found this book and instantly knew. Sometimes it's this wonderful thing when we find a book and we're like, oh, the kids have got to see this book. So this book is called A Horse Named Steve. It's about a horse who finds a golden horn in the forest and wants to be extraordinary. I'm not going to spoil the book for you. Basically, you would receive this book in an envelope with the pom-poms. You would enjoy your book, and then there's the little horn. And then at the back of the book, we have what we call our play pocket. And the play pocket has some cards inside of it. And the cards are things that we design each month. I'm going to take them out. We start with a welcome card that says time for book club. We tell you why we chose the book. And then we give you a QR code that takes you to the digital companion. So every single month, each book has a whole slew of additional material that is online. You can use it if you want to. If you don't want to, that's okay too. But those things can include playlists or videos with our puppet, or we have, printables. There's so much that comes online as well. But anyway, so in the book, you get this. And then on the back, we talk about how the learning is in the play.
Love it.
We use our icons to tell you not only what kinds of learning opportunities you might find in this month's book club experience, but also what materials you need. We try to keep the activities, or we do keep the activities incredibly simple. You don't have to go out and buy stuff. You can open up your junk drawer or your arts and crafts cabinet or
kitchen cabinet.
your old roll of toilet paper. It's really important to us that you and your child begin to believe and understand that your child's imagination, an amazing book, and a few prompts from us will help you begin the journey. Our job is to help you begin the journey of bringing the book to life. And then your child will hopefully develop this connection and relationships to books and see them all that way. So then after the welcome card, we have three activity cards. And each one has a sort of almost like a recipe for play. On the back, we have little activities. This is a find and search. This one, well, I won't spend too much time. This one takes 1 minute to set up. Super fun. We always explain the why play, why we chose that activity, what you might learn. They're all really, really easy. This one is pretty heavily socially emotional. Again, takes 1 minute to set up. And then this last one is something new that we just started that's called a play page. So we've been putting in a little play page that's really just for the child. This one is about building your own horn. You can cut it out and decorate it and have your own unique horn like Steve the horse.
Oh, I love it.
I will say that Rachel and I have a lot of fun, and we really try so hard. You know, we talked earlier about parents and children and parents being able to put themselves and adults putting themselves in the place of children. I think when we build these activities, we try to bring our expertise as teachers and educators and longtime researchers of play and development, but we try to bring the playful attitude of a child so that what you receive in the mail will spark joy and will be fun and exciting and really easy.
Welcome back from the break. We talked a little bit about play in terms of learning through play and social emotional learning. But there are other kinds of play as well. And I was wondering, would you be willing to talk a little bit about the difference between open-ended and closed-ended play and how you all work with that?
Sure. So all of the activities that we include in our book clubs are open-ended or guided play. And just to speak specifically to open-ended play, the idea behind open-ended play is that your child can make of the play whatever they want to make of it. To give you an example, a closed-ended toy would be a little toy phone with buttons on it. There's one use for that toy. It's a phone, you're pressing the buttons, maybe it makes a noise. That's all you can do with it. It's already decided for you. But if you give a child a block, which is an open-ended material, it can be a phone. 5 seconds later, it can turn into an airplane. It can be a building block for a house. It can be anything to anyone. One of the reasons why open-ended play is so beautiful, not only because it sort of creates that endless reinvention of play, but it also makes play more accessible. So where you're coming towards the play with whatever your needs are, you can take an open-ended material with open-ended play and even with guided play prompts, open-ended questions such as, oh, tell me more about what you're doing. I'm curious about that painting. what can you tell me about it? Questions that don't lead you to a specific adult-driven answer or an adult-driven function, but that let the child recreate their own experience and have endless, endless, endless possibility for learning and self-driven, self-owned play.
I love that. I think that's so important. And it sounds like what you all have put together really provides those prompts to allow the adults to be able to offer invitations to open-ended play, but then to let the child run with it and really make it their own.
Absolutely.
And you know, the funny thing is that when I had my little children, when my children were little, it's a lot of pressure to have little children, right? You wonder, am I asking the right questions? Am I doing the right thing? Am I setting up? The truth is, the play will do it for you. With a few open-ended questions, you can learn from your child. It's all built in. It's all in the mixture, right? So you just have to
Awesome.
learn to relax and trust the play.
I can feel all of that. And I definitely hear the preschool teacher, the early childhood expert coming through as well, because I can hear it in the lack of having to go out and buy something. You've kept it simple and stuff that you can do. I mean, as teachers, we know that we make do with whatever's at hand. And you're more likely to do it if you can just grab something out of the drawer as well.
And the independence around that, right? Allowing the children to kind of see the potential in those everyday things to be, because they're usually more open-ended, right? To start to look at things differently. If you end up using a colander to stick spaghetti strings in, or end up using it to make a weaving, you're going to start to look at the things around you, which is also very environmental, right? To be like, how can I reuse? How can I repurpose these things? Because they're really developing this independent muscle of imagination and creation of the fun for themselves. It's not coming at them. They're kind of the creators and the owners of it.
So, as you're talking, what I'm hearing is that you're really emphasizing different types of play within the books, and that each month it's going to vary. So, you mentioned social emotional learning. Why is social emotional learning important, and what kinds of things can we draw out of books to help support that?
Oh,
So like all of when we started our company and we're running classes, we always had something called a play-based mission. And that really felt like to us the way to say, what is the kind of like social emotional outcome that we can expect from engaging with the book on face value, right? The content in the book. And then what are the experiences that we can draw out that will kind of, again, bring those feelings and those experiences to life. And so the books all by nature, have an element of that. But like you said, every book can kind of vary in terms of the types of activities and what the learning is that you're going to get out of it. But I would say one of the things that we've stuck to every time is created these interactive read aloud questions. So again, we know not all parents are teachers. And so by kind of providing those questions that you can ask that are open-ended and that are going to kind of get children to connect with the characters or empathize or sympathize or wonder. That's one way that we are able to always ensure that that piece of the book is coming through if parents are choosing to engage with their kids in that way. And then I would just say, again, the experiences, we're designing them for you to do at home. So we might have to kind of go under the assumption that you are alone or maybe you have a sibling. But we're able to kind of do these things to develop that personality, that self-confidence, things that we do around, looking in the mirror and going for affirmations, or creating a museum of me and celebrating all of the special things about you, writing letters to people, thinking about all those different ways that you can kind of foster that. And again, through the connection in the book. So you're like, oh, I'm just like that character, or I felt like this character went. And so developing that empathy is really important for us. And then, like you said, children learn in so many different ways. And so we want to make sure also that all the different types of learners are represented. So one month might be more heavy on science or math or literacy, and all of that kind of is in there, but it's never one note. So it's always kind of baked in. And that's what we love about learning through play, is that you don't have to follow one lane. You don't have to feel like you're doing one thing. It's all going to be in there, and it's going to come out when the children are truly engaged.
I love that. Go ahead, Annie.
I just want to add that, I think that if you ask almost any adult to think back to their childhood about a book that they love, most of us it kind of makes a little flutter in the heart, right? Because those are some of our really deep memories. I think there's something incredibly beautiful about picture books. I think we all three of us might agree that in some ways they're underappreciated by adults because we believe that picture books are a little bit like poetry getting married with great art, right?
Yes.
And I think that there's something about a picture book's ability, the great ones, right? There's a lot of books that are written just to sort of teach a lesson, or that's okay too.
Right.
But the great ones are written to really hit you in your heart. And I think that those books are the ones that we remember forever. Those books inspire us to think outside of our own vantage point and meet people where they are. They challenge us, they give us the opportunity to feel great about ourselves or see someone like us that we haven't seen anywhere else thriving in a picture book. Picture books are these perfect magical little windows to the world. And I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that we do what we do, because we love the idea of being able to celebrate both the children who receive the books and the books themselves and the artists and the writers who made them.
I love that. And you touched on something that's so important to me. I was thinking as you were talking, the idea that we can provide books that illuminate a child's own experience, that sort of mirror, but also so many kids don't get the opportunity to leave sort of their block or their city or their town, and to be able to open them up to other ways of thinking. The world's bigger than that one spot, and to have that window experience, to be able to experience what other cultures, other people are like. Talk about building your empathy muscle. You've got a chance to transform and transport through the portals of a book, and you're doing it through play. So you've got these memorable, wonderful characters, and then you've got other ways to engage and connect.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to ask you guys, because I'm curious, and Annie, you sort of hit this. What was your favorite picture book growing up? Like, if you think about sort of what that picture book is, that first book friend.
This is like choosing, I mean, I can't choose my favorite
I
child,
know.
but I will tell you one book that I truly, truly deeply love that it's hard to find these days, is a book called The Big Orange Splot by
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Manis Pinkwater. And it's actually the book that is the reason that Rachel and I met, because I came into her classroom and I read that book with the children in her room, and then we ended up working together. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous little kind of funky. I think it might have been published. I'm not sure the publication date, but I want to say the 70s. Um, it's about a street that's perfectly uniform, where all the houses look exactly the same. And one day, a seagull, curiously carrying a bucket of paint in its beak, as seagulls tend to do,
Of course.
course, flies over Mr. Plumbean's house and spills a giant orange splot on Mr. Plumbean's house. Um, the book ends up being about conformity, non-conformity. How can we be ourselves in a world where everyone looks alike? Going back to our last conversation that we had, it's about neighbors. It's about kindness and open-mindedness and crazy, shocking, hilarious creativity. It's a book I think everybody should have.
Love it. How about you, Rachel?
Mine might be a little more, superficial since I was reading it and loving it when I was a young child. My answer would be probably different now. But I loved a book called Florence and Eric Take the Cake. And I think one of the cool things, again, about these books is that, we know most people do grow up with the same types of books, but then it is interesting to think like which one of the books today is going to be that one that kind of carries on and has that lasting impact. And for me, Florence and Eric Take the Cake, I don't even know who the author and illustrator was. But it was just a fun book. It was silly. I think it's lambs, and they're having this whole thing around a mix up between a cake and a hat, because the hat looks like the cake and the cake looks like the hat, and they end up bringing the wrong one over. So the woman puts on the cake and the people at the knitting circle eat the hat. And it's just kind of one of those like fun, goofy, memorable stories that I'm enjoying now reading to my nieces, and just has the lasting power of just a good time.
Yeah.
I love that. Mine was Peter's Chair, the Ezra Jack
Oh.
Keats book. And I was this many years old before I figured out why that book was so important to me, but it's the timing. because it came into my life at a time when I identified strongly with Peter. I was 5, he was 5. We lived in an apartment building, he lived in an apartment building. My parents decided to ruin my life with a sister. His parents decided to ruin his life with a sister. I had a dog named Muffins. He had a dog named Willie. So, all the parallels in my 5-year-old mind, they were right there. And then his dad saw that he was hurting and got him involved in, let's paint these things for your baby sister. And my dad, who was in the army at the time, happened to be home and realized what was going on and did the same things. And so it was sort of going, oh, life imitates art or art imitates life. Because I don't know if my parents got the book because of the situation or if I gravitated to that book on the shelf because of where I was. I couldn't tell you that. I was 5. I just know that Peter was my friend.
That's me. That's beautiful.
I know, I just got the chills. I love that.
Well, and it was funny in the Barnes and Noble, I have 2 daughters, and one is in Richmond, and the other one was the one that you met. And Ella it was that day that she wanted to go through Barnes and Noble, and I wasn't expecting this, but she got so excited as we went through. She's like, Mom, it's Olivia. Mom, it's King Bigwood's in the bathtub. Look, it's Barnyard Dance. And I went, okay. So what she's showing me is that all of these characters made a difference. They had an impact. And, there were certain ones that she definitely remembered from her childhood, in ways that I think have powerfully influenced what she does now. She's a storyteller. And I've got to say that the characters probably had something to do with that. At least I hope they did.
I mean, I think that all adults should read picture books. Try it out.
Yes,
We do learn from children, and picture books can bring you back. It's like the best kind of therapy. They're like these warm, wonderful little portals.
Yeah.
They'll heal
Yeah.
us.
And I think also to that point with adults enjoying it is that we have a pretty wide range of children that we send the books to. Some kids are 3, some kids are 7. And the reason that we think that this works for us, that we send them the same book, is because you can access the same book in so many different ways at different ages over time. And the same thing goes for the play activities as well, right? What it might look for one child to build a toy boat is going to look very different for another, right? And then what are the things that come after that, right? The younger child may just have built the boat and it's over, but the other child is going to be looking around for materials and trying to perfect that boat and make sure it's not going to sink. And, so we know that there's kind of this potential that lies within the open-ended nature of the activities and just like the solid piece of the book that's just going to be super successful and enjoyable and meaningful for children of all ages and adults. You never age out of play, right? That's what we always
exactly.
say. There's no age limit on play.
And also, you might go back to that book, right?
Yes.
You might do those activities when you're 3, but you have your elemental playbook on your bookshelf. On the back, it says, let's play. Maybe you'll go back to it when you're 5 and do those activities in a completely different way.
That was going to be my question is, so the age range for the subscriptions, it sounds like it runs pretty wide.
Yeah.
Birth to,
I think at this point we're doing 2 to 7 is kind of where we find the most people having the most kind of usefulness out of it, both because they have siblings and because they're able to return to them. You always have people maybe on the outlying edges that it's like kind of sinking in for. But I think for us, we've found that, again, because of the open-ended nature, children are able to come to it in different ways at different times. And that then you're building a library. Part of it for a lot of families too is just there are so many books out there. You walk into a bookstore or you hear something about a book. And so for us, we love the idea of being able to give that kind of assurance that you are going to get this super quality, amazing book every month to build up this library of books that your children can independently access and play with, right? So it's kind of this idea of making this collection over time, as parents like to do, right? And if they like to start doing that when they're 2, for the most part, with picture books, we also have lots of plans in mind for the littlest ones, because we want them reading at 0. We want them engaging with the types of books and the types of play, exactly, reading through play. But yeah, for right now, we kind of find that age range, and those are the kids that kind of also are at home, maybe after school or on
sure.
weekends or, after nap time or whatever it might be, that are kind of, looking for something like this, like an alternative to kind of plopping your kid in front of a screen, right, will be to kind of facilitate this type of play and to allow that time, whether it's time for a parent to be with their child or a parent to, get the dinner on the stove or whatever it might be. It kind of allows for all of that to be happening, and for you to use it in a way that makes sense for you as a family. And yeah, just hopefully be a really helpful resource.
And it sounds like with the QR codes that you'd be able to go back and reuse and check out additional materials all the way through.
Absolutely. We want to make sure that you can reprint the things that were on the cards, or that you can again get this additional information. And I did just want to mention that the online experience is more for that, for it to live as kind of an archive and to be able to revisit things if you lose the card or it gets wet, or you want to reprint things. And that the material that's on there, like the read aloud questions, and the activities themselves, are still just for parent eyes only. We're not creating a companion, a digital experience for children.
Right.
Times that they would be looking at the screen, the children themselves, are for these videos that we have on YouTube, of us and our puppet pom pom, whether we're reading books or teaching a letter sound or doing something like that. But that's the only part of that online experience that is for children, right? And so for us, it's really just about making it easy for parents to access and use on the go in a way that makes sense for them, but really kind of tying those experiences to the physical book, the experience of holding it in your hand and, looking around you for how to make it the best it can be.
Go ahead, Annie.
Add one quick thing, which is, you asked about the age ranges. And, I think that when we think about buying books for our children, sometimes we think about our desire to help them learn to read eventually. And if, one of our ultimate goals is to help children build a meaningful connection with the book, one that is rooted in joy. We believe that if they're picking up a book and thinking, oh, this means play, this means joy and love and connection and happiness, then when it comes time to really learn how to decode and read in the way that you'll learn in school from a teacher, you're going to be ready and committed and want to do that because you think of books with joy. If you're a 7-year-old and you're in school and you're, oh, I gotta go practice learning the phonemes for, bringing the joy back to reading can be a really beautiful thing. For a much younger children, starting them off with this joyful, really whole body connection with literature, that is a beautiful thing too. Any way you hit it, you're teaching a child that books are all about possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever, I don't like to use the word levels, but wherever you are in your development, there's something in here for you that you'll connect with and you'll find your way to grow at your level.
You're building an ecosystem of joyful learning and you're doing it through play.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, because I did tell you all that I wanted to hear, do you have a favorite book that you have brought into Elemento Play?
Oh, ooh.
It's so hard.
I know I'm asking you to pick
Now,
your favorite child.
We're on book 18, I think. So we've got a lot to choose from. And that it is especially hard, I think, because we have to make sure they're all so good. Annie's gonna go for it.
I think this is probably going to be I love them all. I don't know. There's so many great books, but this is one that I really love because it's about friendship. It's also really funny. We found this book in England and brought it over here. This book, it actually also has a read aloud attached to it. This book, we hear time and time again that the kids playing with the activities from this book are just absolutely loving it. So this one is really fun and special for me.
Frank and Bart, is that right?
Frank and Bert.
Frank and Bert.
Yeah,
Frank and Bert is amazing.
it was a big hit last summer, and I think we're gonna, spoiler alert, bring them back with another version this summer because it was so enjoyed. I think for me, it would have to be Odd Dog Out. Odd Dog Out was one of our first ones. It has a rhyming. It's by Rob Adolph. It has a rhyming cadence. It's all about a dog that feels like they don't fit in because they aren't conforming. They don't look like them. Traveling far and away to find people that are just like them. Being successful, and then realizing that somebody there also is a misfit, and that the value in kind of standing out and being your own person. And it's a really fun one that, again, kids are able to connect to. And it's not these lessons beating you over the head around like, be yourself. You're literally watching this hilarious dog, show their true colors, and then teaching the rest of the community that they should literally show themselves on the outside and how amazing they are. And so, yeah, I think it's those moments that really, really
Oh,
get
it's
you.
awesome. It's just
Yeah.
amazing.
And
All of the
illustrated
stuff
visual. I
amazing.
know. I know.
That's awesome. All right. So, last question for today. I'm going to drop all of the contact information in the show notes. So, if people would like to learn more, they'll be able to find Elemento Play. But what currently brings you hope?
Trick question at the end.
Wow.
I love that question because I feel like we need it more and more. And so, coming from educators and folks who work to bring empathy and joy, I figure you all are good people dealing in hope right now.
I'll share a quick anecdote. This is actually from the pandemic, but it's the same now. In the middle of the pandemic, when I think we felt as separated as people, it was a funny time, right? We were incredibly separated physically. We were doing a Zoom class in which we were reading a book. I think it was My Flower Garden. And there was a child in Minnesota who had a little set of felt flowers, who had never met this little boy who lived in New York. And we had read the book, we had played through it, we had taught the letter F, we were having a blast. And at one point she ran off and she got one of the flowers and she handed it through the screen, up to the screen, and she said, "This is like, do you remember his name, Rach?"
Mark.
Mark, yeah. So she handed the flower to Mark. She said, "This is for Mark. I want Mark to have this." And I remember thinking in that very dark time that this was this beautiful moment where children automatically knew through play how to connect, how to share, how to be loving towards one another, even if they hadn't even seen each other's faces in person. And so, I really do believe that with books and play and a lot of love, we're all going to be okay.
What gives me hope? I think the fact that, we've been doing a lot of thinking on how parents are picking their books and where they're getting them. And resoundingly, we know that there is still that value in this day and age of screens and everything. There is still that value and that desire to collect picture books. And if we know that the great ones are out there and that they themselves hold the key to developing the type of people that we want to be, leading us and growing with us in the future, then I think just knowing that that's still on the table, and that while newspapers and magazines and all of that may have gone digital, that the idea that there is something valuable still to be found in this mode brings me a lot of hope, because I think that, like we said, it's the foundation for everything. And we hope to be able to help people kind of unlock that the best that they can.
Well, thank you so much. It has been such a delight to have you on the Adventures in Learning podcast. And folks, you definitely need to check out Elemento Play. And I think as I'm listening to you, it's something that could benefit both families and potentially early childhood classrooms as well. So give it a look.
Thanks so much.
Much. Thank you.